Hey everybody, we're now going to read and review Unit 3 from Masechet Kiddushin for the upcoming test. Let's take it away. Our Gemara begins on Daf Hey Amud Bet, and it's discussing, coming off the mission which discussed Kiddushin with Kesef. The Gemara here is going to discuss the concept of, we know there's two parts to Kiddushin. There is the act of giving the object of Kesef, that for sure the man has to do. Then there's the act of the declaration, saying this is for the purpose of Kiddushin. So the question is, can the woman be the one to make that declaration or not? The Gemara begins this analysis by quoting a Braita, and the Braita has two parts to it. There is the Reisha, which begins at Tana Rabbanan and goes here, and then there's the Aval, which goes until the word Mikudeshet. Let's read and translate it together. Tana Rabbanan, let's get the arrow, I prefer the arrow. Okay. Tana Rabbanan, our rabbis taught, always the intro to a Braita. Ketzab Kesef, how does Kiddushin work with Kesef? Natan la Kesef, if he gave her Kesef, Oshava Kesef, or something worth money. Va'amrlan, he said to her, Arei at Mikudesheli, you're Mikudeshet to me, Harei at Muresli, you're Muresli to me, Harei ala into, you'll be a wife, into means wife. Harei Mikudeshet, if he does both, right, he's the one who gives and he's the one who makes the declaration, Harei Mikudeshet, it's good. Aval Hisha Natam, but if she gave the object, or the Kesef, the Amra, he, and she said, Hareini Mikudesha lach, I'm Mikudesha to you. Hareini Maresa lach, I'm Maresa to you. Hareini lach into, I am to you as a wife. Ain't a Mikudesha. It's not good. If she does both the giving of the object and the declaration, then it is not a good Kiddushin. Okay, and if you want to just take a look here, and if you want to just pause it, here is the translation of the Reisha, and here is the translation of the Seifa. You can pause it and look it over if that'll be helpful. And then again, here's just the Reisha and the Seifa side by side, or that's a lie, one on top of the other. So you can just compare the two in terms of how they work. Now, the Gemara is going to point out that the Reisha tells us one thing, the Seifa tells us another thing, and just the Reisha and the Seifa alone don't contradict one another. If he does both, the Reisha says, then the Kiddushin is good, right? If he's the one who says it, and he's the one he gave her, then it's good. And the Seifa says if she gave and she said, then she is not Mikudesha. Those things don't contradict one another. He does both, it works. She does both, it doesn't work. Those both actually make complete sense. The problem is when you analyze the two and say, well, what are you trying to tell me exactly? The assumption is always that the Gemara will always tell us what the halacha is in the most extreme case. So the most extreme case in which it works is where he does both. The most extreme case in which it doesn't work is where she does both. So what about the middle case, where she is the one who makes the declaration? So as Rav Papa points out, if you take the Reish and the Seifa very seriously, this actually creates a contradiction. Matkifula, that means Rav Papa brings a challenging question, a strong question. Matkifula, really powerful, I think it is. Matkifula Rav Papa. Rav Papa asks a challenging question. Tama, the reason that in the Reish it works, did Natan Huva Amar Hu, is because he gave and he said. But it follows from that, Natan Huva Amrahi, if he gave and she said, Ina Mikudeshet, it would not be good. Again, the assumption is always that he has to be the one to give. But the Reisha implies that if he does both, then it's good. That implies if she does one, then it's no good. But Ema Seifa, look at the Seifa. Right, what do I mean? Say the Seifa. Aval Hisha Natna Lo. But if she gave it to him, Va'amrahi, and she made the declaration and said these things, lo have a Kiddushin, it's not a good Kiddushin. Tama, what's the reason in the Seifa why it didn't work? Did Natna, because she gave the Amri, and she said, right, she gave. That follows, and Natan hu va'amrahi, if he gave, but she said, have a Kiddushin, it would be a good Kiddushin. In other words, we look at the Reish and the Seifa is telling us the most extreme case. What's the most extreme case in which we allow it to work? If he does both. Not a very extreme case, but that's the way the halacha works. That implies that in a more extreme case, let's say where she makes a declaration, it would be no good. So therefore, that would be the implication from the Reisha. That would be the inference, the diuk. However, if you look at the Seifa tells us, well, what's the most extreme case in which it doesn't work? Well, where she does both. Then it's clearly no good. That implies that in a less extreme case, right, the Kiddushin would be good. Again, less extreme is more of a reason to allow it. So if she makes a declaration that it would be good, again, in other words, I'll do this in another way of saying it, right? The Reish is telling us the case in which it works. He does both, right? That implies that he has to do both parts in order for it to work. If he does one, meaning she makes a declaration, it would be no good. But the Seifa tells no. How do you make something not work if she does both? Those are the ingredients for it not to work. That implies, but if she only does one, she makes the declaration, then it would be good. Again, there's never an assumption that if she was the one who gives, then it would be good. So this seems like a contradiction between the Reish and the Seifa if you're taking them as very literally as saying this is the way it works and this is the way that it doesn't work. And here's just another slide just presenting it as a problem. You can pause it here and just take a look. That will help. If not, keep going. So now the Gemara moves on to try to solve this problem. If in fact we have the Reisha contradicting the Seifa, at least the implication from the Reisha contradicting the implication from the Seifa, right? The Seifa implies that, the Reisha implies that if she makes a declaration it's no good, the Seifa implies that it is good. So if that's true, so how are we going to solve that? So the Gemara starts off with a first solution, which is 5 words. Reisha davka seifa kadei nasba. The Reisha is specific. The seifa kadei nasba is kind of incidental. It just comes along with the Reisha. We don't take it as seriously. Meaning, since the Reisha was already mentioning where he does both, the seifa will mention where she does both. But we don't really take the seifa seriously. So meaning, if you were to look at this answer right away, you'd say, okay, what the Gemara here is telling me, what the Breita here is telling me, is that if he does both, then it's good. That's the only way that it's good. But if she makes a declaration, it would be no good. What about the Seifa? Yeah, the Seifa, right? The Seifa, we don't take it so seriously, right? The Breita is basically saying, I want you to tell you something. If he does both, then it's good. And also if she does both, it's no good. But the important part is the Reisha. That's the Gemara's first answer. So again, just going back to our visual before, so the same visual before, you have the Reisha implying that if she makes a declaration, it doesn't work. We have the Seifa saying if she makes the declaration, implying that if she makes a declaration, it does work. We throw out the Seifa and say don't take it seriously. The Reisha is the one that we want to take seriously. If she makes that implies that if she makes a declaration, it does not work. The Gemara then raises the obvious problem. Vitani Seifa. Right, would it teach in the Seifa, Milta? Would it say in the Seifa, Milta, something to Satra the Reisha that would contradict the Reisha? Right, very nice. You don't want to take the Seifa seriously, but if you take the implication, if I just took the Reisha and the Seifa, the implication from the Reisha contradicts the implication from the Seifa. Why would I do that just because, I'm not taking the Seifa so seriously? That would kind of be silly. That wouldn't make too much sense. So the Gemara now has to adjust its answer. We're called solution number 2. It's really just a continuation of solution number 1. Right, so again, here's solution number 1 rejected. Right, why would an add-on, meaning the Seifa, be written as a contradiction to the more important part, which is the Reisha? It doesn't seem to fit. The Gemara then adjusts this first answer and gives a second solution. Ela hakika amar. This is what it means to say. Natan huva amarhu. If he does both, if he gives and he says pshita dahavu Kiddushin, that's obviously a good Kiddushin. So what about if she does both, or if she makes a declaration? Natan huva amarhi, if he gives it but she makes a declaration, na'aseh is treated k'moshe natna hiva amarhi, as if she gave and she said, v'lo have Kiddushin, and it's not a good Kiddushin. Meaning, you read it as follows. If he does both, it's good, but if anything else happens, no good. Right? If he does both, it does work, but if she does one, it's as if she does both and it doesn't work. We add words into the Breita, so therefore it's only good Kiddushin if he does both. Okay, here it is one more time. So this is what the Reisha literally says. This is what the Seifa literally says. This is how you read it. If he does both, it works. But anything else is as if she gave and made the declaration, which is also no good. It's basically another way of saying what we said earlier, that the Reisha is the most important part. And the Seifa is really just a way of continuing that halacha from the Reisha. Right? The Reisha says that if he does both, then it's good. And the Seifa is basically going along and saying, and anything else is as if she does both, and it's completely no good. So the Seifa is really there just to fill in the Reisha, which is the main thing. The Seifa is really there to tell us that the Reisha is specifically the only way in which it's good. So before we get on to the third answer, just to summarize the first two. So the first two answers have basically said, let's take this Breita and not take it exactly as it seems. The first answer says, I know the Reisha says that if both works, then it's good. That he does both, that it's good. And the Seifa says, if she does both, then it's no good, implying that only in those cases, that in the Seifa, only if she does both, that it's no good. And the Gemara says, that's what it looks like, but don't take the Seifa so seriously. The Gemara says that's a problem. The Gemara then says, you know what you could do? Just read it as if it's one long statement. The Seifa is really there just to fill in the Reisha. The Reisha says that both is good. If he does both, then it's good. Well, the question is that only if he does both that it's good, or that's just one example? So the Seifa then fills in for the Reisha and says that anything else has the status of her giving and her making a declaration which would be no good. So that is the first two ways of solving this problem. Then the Gemara moves on to a much simpler solution, which is, let's not worry about what the Reisha implies or what the Seifa implies. Let's just say we don't know. The Gemara says, V'yibaitem, and some say, Natan hu, oops, sorry about that. V'yibaitem, and some say, Natan hu v'amar hu, if he gives and he makes a declaration, Mekudesh, it works. Natna hi v'amar hi, in the Seifa, where she gives and she makes a declaration, and Mekudesh. Natan hi hu v'amar hi, what if he gives and she says? Okay, she makes a declaration. Is that work or does that not? The Gemara says, Speku, it's a doubt. We don't know. The Chashin and the Rabbanan, the rabbis had to be careful. What does it mean the rabbis had to be careful? Well, since they didn't know whether it was a good Kiddushin or not, they had to treat it as if it was a good Kiddushin and as if it wasn't a good Kiddushin. They had to be careful on both ends. So they treated it as if it was a good Kiddushin by saying, hey, if you guys want to get married again to somebody else, you have to get a divorce. You have to get a real get. And they treated it as if it wasn't a good Kiddushin by saying, well, if you guys want to get married, you actually have to do a Kiddushin again. Okay, so that's the third solution. Right, so don't make any inferences. The Mishnah is telling us the only things that we know for sure. The Reisha is telling us that if he does both, we know for sure it's good. The Seif is telling us that if she does both, then for sure we know it's not good. And if she does one, well, there's a suffix. We're not really sure if she makes the declaration. Remember, if she gives the object, then no one would say that it's good. Okay, and now just in terms of evaluating the way the Gemara works here. So if you look at the first two solutions, right, the priority here, just to think about the difference between the two, the first two can be grouped as one group, and the third solution can be grouped as another group. The first two solutions, the priority is finding an answer. We are trying to solve the problem when it comes to the diuk, the inference from the reish and the seifa. We have a contradiction. We're trying to solve the problem. So in order to do that, we are fine with trying to change around what the Breita says. Don't worry about this stuff down here. We tried discussing it in class. It didn't work out so great, so we're just going to leave it as is. The third solution is trying to do an authentic, so to speak, reading of the Breita without adding anything in new. That's what the third solution is trying to do. Just in other words, right, so the answer is 1 and 2. Right, she makes a declaration, it's no good, and we change how we understand that statement in the Seif in order to make it fit. The third answer says, no, we read the reish and the seifa as it is. That's why we have a more authentic reading. We don't change around the meaning. And therefore, we're left with a suffix about what to do.